Hi, I'm Kerry. I'm the host of Best of Us Investors. I'm a retired financial advisor. I've been in this business for quite some time. And you might have noticed the last three videos I've done, Saturday, Sunday, and Mondays, are all relative to my concern over the performance of the NASDAQ market. And I think it really extends into all markets, that there just seems that something isn't right, in that there's just a ton of money that since 2020 or since 2000 has come into the market. And most recently, 2020, we threw $8 trillion into our market, taking our national debt from 20 trillion to 28 trillion. And now Joe's asking for another 3.5 trillion, and it doesn't look like he's going to get it, at least not by the first of the year. And we've got some milestones that he's got to cross. He's supposed to have a balanced budget, I believe it is, by the end of September, and then they'll get an extension into the middle and end of October. And if it doesn't happen, that's going to create some financial distress. And whenever I see financial distress, I know something's going to happen. Something isn't right. And I'm seeing more and more things that aren't right. And I want to reflect back on them and reflect on something that happened just this past weekend that causes me some concern. And I want to share it with you so that you don't get surprised. And I may be right and I may be wrong, but first of all, I got to tell you, even though I'm going to share my financial wisdom with you, I'm not your financial advisor. I'm here just to educate. Sometimes I used to say entertain, but I'm not an entertainer. So let's get that out of the way, and then let's see if my concerns are correct, that we're due for a drop in the NASDAQ at least. So stay with me.
Best of Us Investors presents Kerry Griegmeyer.
Okay, to reiterate, our national debt has gotten out of hand. It took us 200 years to get to a $4 trillion national debt, and since 2020 and since 2000, in 21 years, we've taken it from 4 trillion to 28 trillion. Let me just repeat that. We've taken our debt in 2000 from 4 trillion to 28 trillion dollars. And I showed you a graph the last couple of days that showed, particularly since January of 2020, that where we took it from 20 trillion to 28 trillion. That 8 trillion went directly to the NASDAQ market, and it went to basically 6 stocks, and that's Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, and Tesla. And there are some others who have done well because of the pandemic, the Palantirs and the Zooms, but the big money went directly to them, and it just came so fast. Several of them are trying to outbid each other to see how far they can get into space. We just had another one that I think they're landing this afternoon after 3 days in space, and billions of dollars spent to do that. And it's because there's so just damn much money out there that they're spending it on whatever they want to do. This concerns me. As I said, I've been through it a couple of other times. I remember back in 1999, I was walking on the beach with my son in Bradenton, Florida. We were there for a Ameriprise meeting of top advisors, and I said to Trent, "There's something wrong here." I said, when secretaries are becoming millionaires as a result of the stock options that they have in the companies that they worked for, who didn't have money to pay them, so they gave them stock options, and now they're becoming big. That isn't supposed to happen. So there's something wrong with this market, and we tried to pull our clients back, but no, most of them wanted to stay with the the new computer era, the new digital economy. And then we saw the same thing about 8 years later when the real estate market got out of whack, and everybody was flipping homes and getting second and third and fourth homes and renting them because interest rates were so low. In fact, you could get a 9-year mortgage and pay nothing but interest for 9 years because everybody knew the price of those homes were just going to keep going up. Well, we know what happened. That collapsed, and the government, for both of those cases, it's a problem. It's a problem. Let's throw some money at it. Well, that's what they did. And we always then have some pullbacks. I basically pulled back in 18, or I saw in 18 this national debt going up so high. So I went 75 cash in July of 2019 and just was sitting watching the parade go by me when the coronavirus hit, and I jumped in and bought some after the crash, bought some McDonald's and some American Express and some Valero oil because I knew they were going to come back. And at the same time, I went right back into the big six. I said, well, apparently money is not a problem. I was wrong about that. Warren Buffett and I were wrong when we liquidated and went to cash in July of 19. So I threw a bunch of it at Amazon, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, and Tesla at the encouragement of Homer. And my stock market portfolio just scrambled, went crazy. And now I just see this again as there's something wrong. The other thing that really concerns me is the division within our country, the polarization on both sides. Nita and I went to a country western conference up in the Blue Ridge Mountains this past weekend. Drove up there, and the polarization. I mean, we were within a crowd of elderly white people. I did not see, there were probably $3,000 at the 3,000 people at this venue. I did not see an African American. I did not see a Asian American. In fact, I was caused to feel as a minority when one of the performers on the stage says, "Well, this is Baptist country, even evangelistic country. How many of Catholics are out there? Clap if you're Catholic." And Nita and I clapped, and they did a silly making fun of us, and I felt like a minority. For just a matter of seconds, I thought, this is wrong. This is wrong, that I should be made feel like a minority. And it just struck me as we've got problems, and the polarization all the way down to whether to wear a mask or not wear a mask. That should be obvious. If you haven't been vaccinated and you could make me sick, I'm 77 years old. I could die, well, you should have enough respect for me to want to wear a mask. If your kids, and you know your kids under 12 aren't vaccinated, and you stand in front of the school and say, let them breathe, well, okay, but let the other kids live too. We just have, I think, a boiling going on. Did your grandmother ever tell you a watched pot never boils, but nonetheless you would put the water in for the spaghetti and you'd sit there and you'd watch, and then a little bubble would come up and a little bubble would come up, and the more bubbles that came up, all of a sudden you had a rolling boil, and it started overflowing, and what did? You pulled it off the heat. Well, I think we're going to see a little pulling off the heat. And I hope I don't offend anybody here, but there are some things that my past history tells me this isn't right. And as Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger said, the day I was convinced in 2019 to get my money out of the market, this isn't right. And when something's not right, something's going to change. And the water's going to boil. Well, I see it being settled. before the end of the year, but between now and the end of the year, I've heard the phrase, "I want some dry powder. I want some money that I can go in, and I'm going to take a small position in short." So I just want you, particularly you new investors who have seen this outrageous skyrocketing of the stock market, and you're saying, "My goodness, I had no idea making money was this easy." It's not. It's, trust me, it's not. When things happen that shouldn't happen, and if you haven't seen this graph I showed the last 2 days, go back to my last two videos and look at this graph. In fact, I'll send Jack a copy of it, and he'll just put up a picture of it now. This is unreal. It's look at the graph and the growth from 2008 to 18 and say, wow, that was really, the market was really cooking back then. And then look at it from 2000, well, I guess it would be April of 2020 through today, and say, ask yourself, is that normal? Can that sustain? I don't think so. So I wanted to share that with you. That's the objective of this channel. Just make good financial decisions. On that picture, you're going to see also on the far side in red, healthcare. That's where you've got to be watching. For every action, there is a reaction. And the biggest action in my 77 years was that coronavirus. That affected more people in this world than World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, all combined. That coronavirus has affected more people in this world than all of those world wars. You might even put the Civil War in that. More people. I mean, it's not as many deaths, but the effect, the personal pain, and it's bubbling over. Again, cook some spaghetti tonight and fill that pot halfway full of water and watch that first bubble come. And then throw your spaghetti in and don't take it off the heat. Don't take it off the heat, and watch that water just come out of that pot and spew over the top, and then it hits the burner and go shh. That's what I think is going to happen. And then you pull it off the burner and it's all okay. And that's what I think will happen. So that's my words of wisdom from my life experience. I'm Kerry Grinkmeyer. I'm the host of Best of Us Investors. If you'd like me to share more of my years of wisdom, subscribe. Give me a thumbs up so Sarah J. and who looks at this and says, hey, his channel's pretty hot. Maybe it's going to boil over.